Our guest today is Greg Shand. He's retired from the military and has a very powerful story to share about dealing with PTSD, if I have that correctly.
Good.
And he's connected with a group called Marijuana for Trauma, and the other group is called?
Veterans for Healing.
Veterans for Healing. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Dennis, for having me.
Great. So it'd be nice if people knew some of that biohistory that you were just detailing for me a second ago. So you've been in 15 years, or were in for 15?
I was in for 15 years. I retired September 2014. I initially started off as reserve infantry at Nova Scotia, the West Nova Scotia Regiment.
So you a Cape Breton boy?
Not by birth, no.
I was going with the red hair thing.
Yeah, no, my grandparents were from Cape Breton, or my grandmother was.
Okay, so whereabouts in Nova Scotia?
Halifax originally.
Cool.
And then I grew up as a military family.
All
So
right.
I've been around most of the country.
You know Canada in a unique way.
For the most part, the goods and bads, yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted. So you're a reservist then? No.
Yes, and then I went over to the regular forces as a mobile support equipment operator, which I served another 12 years. And then I was medically released, like as I said, 2014 September.
So what's a mobile support equipment operator do?
In the Army, generic term is we're a trucker, so we do a lot of working with all the heavy equipment, moving the big vehicles and stuff around, supplying the forward lines with all their vital mission essentials.
Yeah, all the equipment.
Beans and bullets.
Beans and bullets.
Beans and bullets.
That's a T-shirt right there.
Yeah.
So how was that? Was it what I'm thinking of? Typical. My instincts are to go with the news and the political stuff. We constantly hear in the media about the military need new equipment, and that the equipment's quite old. I'm thinking of the helicopters down in Nova Scotia, and sometimes the big heavy equipment doesn't get replaced as quick as possible. You're hands-on with the stuff. Did you have to use a lot of Band-Aid and duct tape and to keep her going?
Yeah, there's a lot. You had to think outside the box quite a bit.
All right.
So somehow as Canadian soldiers, we always seem to manage to get the job done with less. But eventually one day you're not going to be able to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And that'll be a tragic part of it.
Yeah. Okay, so after the machine equipment operator?
Then I started instructing on basic soldering skills for new recruits, and then...
Is that what landed you at Base Gagetown?
No, actually, Base Gagetown, I was posted here initially when I went Reg Force, and then I was posted CFB Petawawa,
Oh, okay.
where I completed one tour to Afghanistan. But when I was released medically, my wife and I met here. We both enjoyed the area, so wherever she wanted to go, I was like, you pick the place, babe.
Yeah.
And we decided to come back here.
That's great. And so you met here?
Yes, we met here.
Okay. And you got married here?
No, we got married at my church in just outside Dartmouth, Nova Scotia.
Oh, cool.
So
that's why I ask is about the movement, so you ended up back here.
we ended up back here.
Great.
We have a nice little place out in Nasonworth. It's quiet. It's actually quite like this. You're close enough to the city, but
Yeah. Fun. And then you were released from military, so
yes.
Did you see yourself as having a long career in the military? Was that for you like a career path?
I did. I couldn't see myself doing anything else in life. I knew right from the beginning that I was either going to be like a firefighter or a police officer or something. It was just, at the time, within the school system for the military still ran the schools or supplied them and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I think there might have been a little certain amount of indoctrination that you're around there all the time.
Get
that
them when they're young.
you're gonna serve your country somehow.
Yeah, but that's a good message. There's lots of merit in that message. The question gets into how.
Yeah.
So you had foreseen, you were hoping for
A much longer career,
stretch.
yes.
Yeah. But you said you did get to be an instructor for a bit.
I did, yes.
For how many years?
I did that for approximately 3 years at, it was in Petawawa. It was in more of an advanced school for vehicles, and a course called like the soldier qualification, where they learn how to operate as a soldier first, and yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good. And then how to operate the equipment after that.
And how to operate equipment afterwards.
So I know nothing about that. Most of our audience will know nothing about that, right?
Right.
So what would a class be like? What would you teach?
I teach a general weapons class, just basically with our service rifle, the
Yeah.
C7A2,
Yeah.
and just teach them how to properly use that there. Maybe not so much on the rifle, I guess,
Yeah.
but the machine gun, the C9.
Okay.
Uh, just all their hands-on drills and stuff.
Yeah. So get them used to the sounds and the feel and the efficiencies
And how to work,
maintenance.
how to operate under stress. It's weapons classes can be very intense
Okay.
because when you're having to use these weapons, it's a tense situation to begin with. So
Okay.
to fight as you train as you fight, I guess.
Yeah. That's an interesting point because general public will get whatever you guys have lived through from news media. News media filters things pretty good, or they'll emphasize this and sort of not talk about that. So the thought of the training being as intense as the actual experience when on a mission or when you're posted, that's interesting because that's constant.
Yes.
I mean, oh, got to get up today and got to go train some more, and you know the thunder's going to come raining down on you. Wow.
So
Oh, good. So you did that for 3 years?
I did that for 3 years, and then I was posted to a unit called the JPSU Joint Personnel Support Unit,
Yeah.
and that's the pretty much the last unit before you're medically released that most people go to.
Okay. So that's a place where they try to help you guys heal?
The goal is to help us heal and get the soldier back to his unit and back to being functional.
Mm-hmm.
The sad reality of it is you're probably looking at about 98% release rate.
And that was what, 2 years you said?
September 2014, so just a little over 2 years.
So that brought an end to your career.
That brought an end to my career, yes.
The military is also in the media, again, media picking its stories about how much they don't facilitate or help with transitions or help with healing. Are you willing to share a little bit with being comfortable with sharing about what's that like? Because what we read in the media gets into a lot of drug taking, modifying behavior, drug taking, and then that segues nicely to the piece you found with marijuana for trauma stuff.
Yeah. My transition out of the Army wasn't necessarily, it wasn't volatile or anything like that there. It was very chaotic and disorganized. There's things that I left that I didn't know, like how to make sure my medical was all set up properly. So it was there, but because it wasn't set up properly, when I went to go use it, I had to pay it out of my own pocket, the entire amount, and get reimbursed later on, which puts your family at a bit of a disadvantage, especially when you're talking about coming from a twice-a-month paycheck to being paid once a month and having to learn how to budget on a once-a-month pay versus a twice-a-month pay.
Yeah, it's no small thing. And your cash flow, too.
Your cash flow, you have to wait so long before money comes in. I was fortunate enough that my money came in relatively short. Okay. I've heard other horror stories, but mine was fairly simple that way.
Oh, good. So do they put you through I almost want to say a deprogramming? So when you're making the transition and the exit from the military, is it here's this step, here's this step, here's this step, or is it? Can you describe it?
They try to, I guess, get you to do something else in life.
Yeah.
And that's fine and dandy, but when you're talking about things like PTSD and stuff like that, they definitely need a lot of restructuring on how they do things. It's sorry, can you repeat the question again?
No, it's okay. You're doing great. This is all it is. Just it's like we don't have beer, but we got water. Watch the video that's on the website for Marijuana for Trauma, and it was interesting. One of the people on the video, he was quite severe, I guess. I don't know the range, but he was shaking pretty good, and then had some marijuana, a certain type. I didn't catch all the letters and the initials to all the different types and pieces, but the big bag, the inhaler bag or whatever. And then of course afterward his hands are straight. So it's striking that if this is, in his case, where he's at, then going out to find work or going out to do kind of anything at the grocery store, or it's like, whoa, you got to back up a little bit more.
Yeah.
So that transition from military to outside of military, I mean, that's all nice. You can have this nice diagram and map, but until you take care of that, that stuff isn't going to happen.
At the end of the day, I guess the Army still wants you to perform and act like a soldier until the day after you're out of the Army. It'd be, like, and I'll give an example, like your dress, like you're done, you have a date of release, you have 6 months to go.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't you grow a little bit of facial hair? Like clean, still presentable in appearance, but just let the member start to assimilate back into the civilian lifestyle again.
Yeah, good point.
Instead of having them right from day one going out, supposed to be this hardcore soldier, and then say, yeah, now you're on the civilian population, but figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, and you talked about starting young. So in some ways, your story kind of parallels some professional athletes, where they play hockey or basketball or something to a certain level when they're 12 or 14, and gymnasts, you know, and then that's all they know, and then they're 35 and career's done, and okay, now what?
Yeah, you never, when you're young, you think you're invincible, and you're never, this is what I have, this is what I'm going to do, and I don't have to plan on anything else.
Yeah.
I didn't need high school at the time to join the Army, so at the time I didn't get it. I did get it before I left the Army, but that was only out of necessity, because what am I going to do after this?
Yeah, oh yeah, which is good. I mean, you were planning that one.
Yeah, so I did try to set myself up to plan. It's just unfortunate with it doesn't work out that way all the time.
So it almost sounds a bit like a cartoon where you walk, you can see the animation, you know. I don't mean cartoon in a bad way. I mean, boom, you're out the door now, and then you're standing there looking around going, okay, okay, where do I start?
And you might have a pair of underwear on.
Feeling just a little exposed.
Yeah. There's so many different shortcomings that need to be corrected.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'd have this strength or energy to actually go on, because I don't ever like coming up with just a problem. I like to have at least some kind of idea of a solution. Yeah. And I don't think I could make a solution for most of them.
Yeah. Because
it's just outside my, I guess, my pay grade.
Your range, your pay grade. So when you make the transition out, and how wonderful your partner is there, because that's a nice grounding piece, you know. How did you then find or did they find you, the Marijuana for Trauma, or the Veterans for Healing?
I have friends that were in Marijuana for Trauma. Yeah. I guess the important thing to say is about it. Marijuana, when I was in, I hated it. I hated the idea of it. I didn't want any. If I knew any of my troops were doing it, like they'd have the devil to pay. Yep. So when I got out, my mindset was still, oh, Marijuana for Trauma. That's just a bunch of potheads wanting to find a way to smoke marijuana. Yep. But when I got out, after 3 months of the initial, I'm free, I spent probably about the next year and a half living in my basement. Yeah. The only time I ever came out was to either drink, have a cigarette, or go buy more something to drink.
Yep. Yep. And that's important for people to understand, because we think we know, but we don't know. And much respect for sharing that stuff, because it'll deepen the conversation around, no, it's not just weed for the sake of getting a little stoned. It's something much bigger than all of that. Yeah. So then how did it find you? Then you're down in the basement, and
I was down.
Stuff is pretty dark, and then something must have come along and said, hey, you're coming this way with us.
A friend of mine was moving from Ontario back here, and he suffers with chronic pain, Ptsd, and he was going to give it a go. I was coming to the end, so I'm like, what else do I have to lose? I'll support you with it. Yeah. At the end of the day now, unfortunately, marijuana or cannabis was just not for him. It didn't agree with him. He had some problems with it, but
Yeah.
I it's worked for me. I haven't had a drink in a long time now, probably since April, since I had anything to drink. And prior to that, when I started the cannabis, the alcohol intake actually decreased drastically to the point now that I'm not saying I'm never going to not have a drink again.
Yep.
I just don't want one.
Yep. Different feel. Can you share body changes? Because if you're drinking a fair amount of alcohol, your body kind of adapts to it, and then you have to switch to another thing. So, did you notice body changes?
Yes, between my medications that I was put on, like the pharmaceuticals, and drinking, I'd actually blown up to about 223 pounds.
Goodness. And your normal weight is?
My normal weight would be about 182, so now I'm sitting at about 178,
Yeah.
and that's since I started using cannabis as a medicinal purpose.
Wow. So did your body thank you?
I think it's going to. So I think it's going to. I still take a couple pharmaceuticals, but cannabis has cut that in half as well.
Wow.
So my blood pressure's starting to come back down a bit. Prior to that, before I started cannabis, the doctor said I was a walking stroke.
Mm.
My blood pressure was so high and astronomical. And now with this here, between the cannabinoids working within the system, helping lower the blood pressure,
Yeah.
plus a little bit less of the stress, helping lower it, it's just win-win for me from here.
A thing that you read a fair amount about PTSD is the impact on sleep or lack of sleep.
Prior to that, I was using alcohol as a horrible medicine, and I'd still only average maybe 3 hours a night, 3.5 broken sleep,
Yeah.
and I'd wake up soaked every night. I'd have to check myself to make sure I didn't wet the bed,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Cool. And then along comes taking cannabis regimen. So the assessment process then. So here's Greg, walks in. This is the state I'm in. So how are we going to get this man leveled out a little bit so that he starts to have some joy in his world, you know? So did they assess, put you on you got to get on a treadmill, you got to change diet and that stuff? Or was it just geared to the proper cannabis mix?
I think it's just a proper cannabis mix, and consciously watching what you're eating. I mean, I still have some of my own bad vices, but
Oh, well.
we all have them, I guess.
Deal. It's balance.
But no, I don't necessarily work out all the time. I mean, I try to do what I can around the yard. Pretty crippled up with arthritis and stuff like that, back problems, and
Military days come back to haunt you.
so I can't work as aggressively as I used to in my yard. But when I can, I do it.
Yeah.
Between fighting with the PTSD, so the days that are good,
Yeah.
I live them to the fullest with getting stuff done.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll have a hard time sitting. It drives my wife nuts because we'll sit down to have a evening coffee or whatever, and I'll be up and down and all over the place and fidgety, and it's just because I'm having a good day and I want to get things done.
Yep, I appreciate that. Yeah, it sort of reminds me when I was raising my boys, and you can, not near the same range of things, but you can tell when they're having a good day, and the energy levels is much higher pitch, and they're happy, and it's the same feeling, must be close to the same feeling.
Yes, it is.
So you probably were in pretty wicked shape when you were in the prime of it in your career with the military.
Yeah, I could hold my own. I mean, I wasn't Mr. Universe Fitness there or anything in the Army, but I mean, I was above standard for what the Army expected.
Yeah. So then along comes your mid-30s.
Well, along comes mid-30s and the arthritis from beating your body around when you're younger, and yeah, now this is what it is. And
so, do you mind walking through that assessment process a little bit?
oh, yes,
For when you go through, because this is great. You're giving people are getting a feel for what a day is like, and that's really important to know what a day is like. Whether it was a day in the military, in the training, in the intensity of the constant thunder, to keep the pressure on so they're ready when they leave. To then now you're out, and okay, now what? And the thunder's just hovering over here, and how do you get through a day? And then how did you get assessed for, Greg needs this, and this will help him get through a day?
So what I did is, or how it works is you just walk into the office, or you can give them a call.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't remember. I have a hard time remembering the numbers off the
No,
top of my
it's
head.
okay. And so the audience knows, so you know, we put all this stuff up on YouTube underneath. So if you read the comments section and the copy underneath the YouTube clip, you'll find all these links.
So I walked into the office. I told them who I was and why I was there. And they gave me an intake package.
Yeah.
From there, I filled it out by myself at the time. I should say, it's not that I couldn't have filled it out with somebody, I just didn't want to talk to anybody. So I took it home, filled it out myself,
Yep.
brought it back in. They sent it to their doctor at the time, and then the doctor's office gave me a call, and in about a month I had a prescription. I had a sit-down conversation, kind of like what we're having right now. Went through my life history, what was what. The doctor made his assessment and prescribed me my medical cannabis.
Cool. And then away you go.
Actually, he prescribed 10 grams at that point in time.
So did they have to train you, Tim? Because you'd shared that, you know, you're totally against it when you're in your career days. So you must have had a shift to, okay, how do I take this stuff now?
Well,
And monitor, like, this is the right amount, this is too much, you know, finding that level.
once I first got my my cannabis, I was still very, like, I don't want nobody to know what I'm doing this. Like, this is the devil's lettuce. Like, this is horrible.
Devil's lettuce, I can remember that.
And I didn't go around MFT. I just did my thing. I was using cannabis incorrectly. But deep down I knew that I needed a change. So I started just, you know, force myself to go to MFT.
And
and then-
marijuana for trauma.
Or, yeah, sorry, marijuana for trauma.
No, it's good, just making sure the acronym registers.
Yeah, so the marijuana for trauma, and then I started meeting people.
Ah,
And then you start building connections and rapport, and then you can't help but look at cannabis when you walk into marijuana for trauma, and you can feel and you see the love with the people there. And they were just like me. I don't have to walk in there. I don't have to. When I say I have a bad day, I don't have to go. I'm having a bad day, and blah 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 blah. Why?
yeah.
It's just they muckle onto you. They give you a heart-to-heart hug, and let you know it's going to be okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's nice. Because it's more than just about the cannabis, right?
Yeah.
It's about the network and the understanding.
Yes. Yeah. And the education of it too. Once I started coming around marijuana for trauma, then it was amazing. I learned so much. I learned that I was totally using my medication wrong. And
Can you give us an example? Because for me, that's a big blank. It's like I don't quite know what that means. So by wrong, is it like too much, too little, taking it the right way?
not taking it the right way, not taking it for the right things, like not taking the right strain. If my shoulder hurts,
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to want to take a high THC content.
Okay.
I'm probably going to want something more of a CBD, which is cannabinol.
Okay.
CBD is actually works for inflammation and pain, and when you ingest it, now you take CBD and you vaporize it, and it works for anxiety, and the list goes on.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So, like each chemical component of the cannabis does something different, but then they can also do something the same and work together, and then it's a lot of knowledge. I didn't realize there's so much science behind this.
Can picture a binder of some sort saying, if you're feeling this way, then pay attention to take this.
It's essentially, you could do that, and then everyone tailors differently, and it's up to you to find that way it's up to you to find that way with it, how you're going to do this and how it's going to work for you. But you have your brothers and your sisters along there to help you.
Yeah.
So if you see somebody smoking a CBD, like just rolling it in a regular joint and smoking it.
Yep.
They're getting a little bit off it, but
Not as
they're
much.
wasting 80% of it easily.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
and as a veteran, and taxpayers do pay for my medication, I have a responsibility to utilize it to its fullest potential.
Yep. Yep. Be nice to apply the same principles to all the food waste that we do, because 40% of food is wasted. So that whole principle about being efficient and smart and knowledgeable, it's a great principle. Well, thanks. That's an amazing peek, because into my shoulder, this anxiety and stress, this. So you see a day through a fascinating lens, because that's part of your mix for the day.
Yeah, I do a couple hours volunteering down at Marijuana for Trauma a week, and it's unfortunate. I guess it's mixed feelings. It's unfortunate sometimes you see people at their worst day,
Mm-hmm.
but when you see the relief that they get when you tell them that we're going to work through this together, we're going to give this a try
Yeah.
as a team, and the relief that you just see it just come over their face, and that's what makes it worthwhile.
Yeah, not alone anymore. But they made that step like you did, to go through the door.
Yes.
Big moments. So that leaves, not just leaves, there's hundreds, maybe thousands that need this. Do you have any sense of the demand? Because
it's the stigma out there still is pretty strong against it, but yes, there's definitely a need for.
So there's a lot of people who could be using it and just haven't found that footing yet to move forward towards it.
That's true. That's correct. Yes.
Wow.
Like there's a lot of people looking at it and they're like, but they're still quite unsure. And
yeah, and that speaks to some of the training that you spoke of earlier, in that you're a soldier and this is what you do, and then when you're out the door, well, go be a civilian now.
Yeah.
And how do you make that transition? There's so much that you have to kind of go and embrace. A learning curve.
I still have rough days, but Marijuana for Trauma really definitely is part of my healing.
Yeah. And how did you always know that they were around? Was it sort of in your periphery, or did you say enough, I got to get out of the basement, and then you found it?
I had heard about them, and it just still wasn't for me. I still thought the same thing as when I was in the Army, that it's just a bunch of potheads. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And I was wrong.
Yeah. But how great that you were wrong, right?
I'm glad I was wrong. I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm still fighting for
Good day.
for the good days, and trying to help other people when I can.
Yeah, and sharing your story is a big piece of that. Is pretty awesome. So symptoms of PTSD would be shaking,
sweaty hands, a lot of self-confidence issues, paranoia, like general irritability, like that's being polite on general irritability.
Yeah.
Poor decisions and stuff like that.
Because everything's vibrating really high, correct? When you talked about the training, you talked about keeping the pressure on all the time. So you're constantly in that high frequency mode, I want to call it.
You're taught to turn your emotions off and become a soldier, and you're always at that high state. My brain doesn't shut down, and that's what I was trying to use for alcohol, was to slow it down, but it never shuts down, so it just makes the symptoms worse. And then you start running into your sleep, and then everything plays and feeds off each other.
Yeah, dominoes.
The domino effect, and it magnifies so much more when it's when you're talking about PTSD.
Mm.
We talk about like a normal day, you get up and your coffee maker goes kaput, and you're like, damn, I had a bad day. But then you get someone with PTSD and their whole world's come crashing down on them. And it's a coffee maker, you can fix it or you can go buy a new one, but in that moment, that's what they need. It's the end.
So then it's how to slide or move out of that. So, because if you're in that state and it's that intense, it'd be doubly hard to know you got to step out of that to feel like you're free, or that there's help, or where the lifelines are.
You're free and you're safe.
Yeah, safe.
Safe is a big one. I used to sleep with a knife between my mattress, and that was so I could feel safe.
Yeah. Big
And,
one? Big knife?
It would do the job. if that's why I had it there, and
Yeah,
but not taking consideration, my wife wasn't feeling safe anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Small, it's not small little signs, but powerful, that this need for safety is tied to having something nearby to defend yourself, because you're constantly in a state of, I got to defend myself.
Yeah.
I remember once reading a story of a soldier, American soldier, back from the States, was driving the family in the minivan, being told to be normal now, be civilian now, and he had driven a Lav, I believe. And in front of him on the freeway, a young fella had stuck his head out of the car. The ball cap flew off the kid's head, landed on the road in front of the guy driving the van, and he couldn't help it. He swerved like crazy because he thought for sure if he went over that hat, something bad was going to happen. And that was his story of when he realized that he needed to go get help. Because after he came out of this, because he went into he shifted his altered awareness, shifted into this other place, which he wasn't there, but he was in that space. And then he realized his whole family he put at risk on a freeway, So that was his key moment for being aware, I need to go get help. And he knew, he described, I knew it was a ball cap. I knew it was a ball cap. It was no big deal. But I could not drive over it.
Yeah.
Something similar?
Yeah, I get that. I've come across an experience like that, and it was just something simple as driving down a back road at low light, and I seen people, and it just put me back at another time.
Wow.
And the thing is, you got to keep pushing forward.
Mm-hmm.
If you PTSD, I believe PTSD is a terminal disease.
Okay.
How long we have is up to us.
Ah.
So,
Good way of putting it. Because then you have the power to make that all happen for yourself.
yeah, so you have to. I always believe that you have to keep trying to push forward, even when it's the hardest thing you have to do. It's just the moment you stop, you're done. It's all downhill from there.
So this is where Veterans for Healing come in, with
Yes.
having a social group or a peer group who get it. They understand.
We get it. We try to. Marijuana for Trauma has the marijuana side and the spirituality and stuff like that. But then you have Veterans for Healing, where it's your brothers and sisters in arms supporting each other. It's more streamlined. Like if we want to go down to St. Andrews for the day to go look at rocks and stuff like that in the ocean,
Go have a bite to eat at the Gables.
we can get on our in our transportation, and we all go down there and enjoy the day. So we'll make a plan, and we'll go have lunch. We'll enjoy the day, enjoy each other's company, and then hopefully that will be enough to help keep you going for another couple days.
Yep. Do you have any stories of some people, no names and stuff, that you've helped or you've watched the transition go through, where they kind of arrived this way and this is how they are now, and it feels great?
Yes, I actually have a close friend of mine. He tried marijuana for the first time. Same boat as or similar boat as myself.
Yeah.
And I've seen him drink, and I've seen him pass out before, and it's always the, droopy face, the serious passed out face or whatever. Well, he went to sleep after he had a couple inhales off the joint, and he actually fell asleep, and he was smiling. And it's
big.
That's huge. It's probably the biggest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
that way. And then, like for fibromyalgia, we had an older lady come in, and she was in tears when I told her that this is what marijuana can do, and if we can try this,
Yeah.
like the doctor makes a decision on whether they get the cannabis or not. What I do is I just help give them my experience and help direct them
Yep.
better,
Yeah, it's
or
like,
negotiating, I guess, through the cannabis.
yeah, it's peer-to-peer, so that someone who's been through it is the best counsel for going through it for the next person coming through.
Peer-to-peer, art therapy, spirituality therapy. Like there's so many different programs and stuff that we're doing there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's making the difference. As far as my knowledge to date, prior to the reduction from cannabis, we've not lost a single soldier or retired soldier to suicide.
Great. Great. That's
It's
powerful too.
Since the cutback, we can't say that anymore.
Yeah. And the cutback again.
Since the cutback of from where Veterans Affairs will only pay for 3 grams now to the maximum of $8.50 a gram.
And that's what hit the news about a month ago?
This has been in the news since November.
November.
It was when they first made the announcement. And it just came into effect, May 22nd, I believe it was.
Yeah, we're recording at the very beginning of June, so about a month. And there was some media attention to that cutback from Veterans Affairs and the impact it had on some specific people who would come and tell their story to get the story out. So you would know of many others who've been affected by that.
We're in danger. We're in very big danger. I myself only have about a week and a half's worth of my full daily prescription worth of medicine,
And normally you have how much?
Normally I would be prescribed 300 grams a month.
Okay.
With their reduced cutback, they're looking at 90 grams a month now. So they're taking over two-thirds. If you look at from 10 grams down to 3, that's 70%. And then you calculate that the CBD I was talking about, that's like $12.50 a gram. They're only going to pay a maximum up to $8.50, sorry. So the $4 a gram is still on myself to have to pay for. So when you're talking about recapturing that, you're talking a lot higher than 75% of our medicine's just been cut like that because the government is on their position is they don't know what it's going to do to us in the long-term effects. There's no scientific studies, case studies.
So that was the justification
that
for
was their
the cutback.
That was their justification. And
meanwhile, there won't, to be blunt about it, there won't be any long-term studies.
There won't be any because they're killing us.
Yeah.
We've already lost 3. One of them from marijuana for trauma in Oromocto already, and they're just not getting it. They're not getting it. We went down to the OSI clinic, operational stress injury clinic in Fredericton, to go get help to get a letter from the doctors so the Veterans Affairs will pay for more than 3 grams.
Try to build a bridge, get you through a short.
And the OSI clinic would lock the doors. They knew we were coming. They called the cops, or the police officers. Police called the person who has organized us to go down there to get these letters.
Yeah.
He said they're not in any danger. We don't want violence. We've had our share of violence in our lifetime. We don't want any more.
Yes.
And they had the door locked for supposedly impromptu training afternoon. And then I actually videotaped it myself. But one of the guys we heard on camera afterwards, well, we'll just come back tomorrow then. They must have heard that, and they canceled appointments till this Monday that just passed. This is on a Wednesday, so other patients that go to this operational stress injury clinic were cut out because they thought we were there to hurt them when we clearly stated before we're not. We're just trying to document that we're being turned away.
Yeah, you're trying to get through the paperwork and the gamesmanship short of it.
A guy finally did get his letter for 8 grams.
Yeah.
And then Veterans Affairs came back and said, we're still only going to pay for 5, because that's all we feel you need. So now the government's come between a doctor and patient. So you set us out the requirements, the prereqs to get our 10.
Yeah.
Or whatever we're prescribed above 3.
So you're playing the game the way they wanted you to play the game.
And then they once again, they're changing the rules on us.
And there's one of the narratives that sits around military, undocumented, but is that do it this way and then it shifts and then it shifts. And here you are, you're out of the system technically. You're on your own technically with this helping wing, supposedly, and you're getting the same dance.
And operational stress injuries run by Horizon Health. And Horizon Health is a third-party contract to Veterans Free, or not Veterans Free, Veterans Affairs Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying not to be a conspiracy theory here, but I mean,
Yep.
is this not the government getting in between our
Something's not adding up.
between our patient and doctor privileges again?
Yeah. Meanwhile, at the street level, you guys need stuff because there's change occurred. Did you have advance notice? You know, because normally a change, you take a period of time to implement a change. This percentage this month, you know.
We knew in November.
Or was it? Boom.
We knew in November. Honestly, I don't think any of us really believed that we were ever going to receive 10 grams again.
Yeah.
But we didn't really think the government was going to stick and stop at 3.
Wow.
I'm gonna say it coldly and bluntly.
Yeah.
We're better than them dead. That's what they portray to us, is that it'd be cheaper and easier for them if we just went away. Well,
Yeah.
that's not what they're going to get, though.
Yeah. Well, no, because you guys have a career of bonding together and taking action.
When I'm tired of talking, someone else will pick up and take over.
Yeah.
We're not going away.
On the general theme of the treatment of veterans, it's these specific stories continue to come up, but so lost in the bigger narrative of the country is care and nurturing and support for. You had a career, different people have different experiences with their career, but there's a consequence to that career. Not the same as firefighters or law enforcement, but there's similarities to the PTSD element to it and the risk factor to it. And there's this vacuum of after. We never get enough of the stories about what happens after. And then there's a lacking of the nurturing and making everyone feel included and safe.
I don't think anybody really wants to know what happens after.
It's a fascinating thing because there's a whole other life to now be had, you know, after having this career, now go have that career. And how do we help you get there?
And that's the thing, when
And that's lost somehow, that narrative or that storyline's lost.
I'd love to have my career back. I would pay back every dime I ever received from anybody just to have it back. But it's not the case, and this is what I am now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is the best I'm ever going to be. I think I can get a little
coming.
bit.
Yeah.
I think get better,
Yeah.
but I don't think I'll ever be able to have a normal life, I guess.
Yeah. Well, there's not very many normal people though. So
It's true enough, but
cut you some slack there.
The medications, the pharmaceuticals stopped me from killing myself.
Yeah.
I had no life.
Yeah.
I existed. Cannabis has given me some chance at having some sort of quality of life again. And honestly, you know, maybe 10 grams is too much. Maybe 3 grams is too much. All I know is that if I have some sort of quality of life with what I'm doing now, I would rather live 20 years like that than live 30 years in a pharmaceutical-induced coma.
Yep. Great point. So, sliding towards the last 5 or so minutes of this great interview. So the future, like in a perfect world, what would you like to see happen? Apart from the politics and the medical marijuana stuff and all of that stuff that is going to be much harder to sort out. But just for you and in your world, what would bring that joy to the day, and what would a new career maybe look like? Assuming all this stuff gets settled and you move forward, and so what's the next career look like?
It's unknown.
Well,
This may be it. This
speaking, healing.
speaking, healing, working with my brothers and sisters. I can honestly say I can't think of one person off the top of my head right now
Mm-hmm.
that I wouldn't drop and go help.
Yep.
So
So
it's just a beautiful thing, and I really hope one day you'll take me up with my offer and come down and just see the inner workings.
yeah, and do some do a remote show, and yeah, maybe there'll be something really worthwhile exploring and sharing this story for others. So you see your future as working towards expanding and helping more people.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Last couple minutes, any thoughts you want to close off with? It's been great. You've given us lots of powerful insight, as well as the technical details and some of the recent history with major changes for funding and that. Something else that you want people to know or understand about?
Just that I love my new family at Marijuana for Trauma and Veterans for Healing. I want to thank you for everything you gave me so far, and I really like to thank you, Dennis, for having me on your show and getting this out here.
This is the easy part. You guys are doing all the work.
It's about just, you don't have to agree with medical marijuana. You don't even have to like it. Just become educated about it.
And just know it helps. Anything that helps is good.
This is true.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great place to end. Thank you for watching. Be good. Have fun. Love each other.
The Dennis Report is an independent media production. To support the program, please go to www.dennisatchison.com and click the Patreon link.